Right, hi guys and welcome back to the crawl wall from the Italian Grand Prix. And yes, not the most exciting of races and a hell of a lot of grid penalties this weekend for engine components and engine parts. And it really begs the question, they need to come up with another idea really, don't they? They need to come up with a better way of sorting these engine issues out. Can understand why they do them, so obviously teams can't go mental spending budgets and shitloads of money on new components every race weekend, but when you get a grid position but a grid drop but end up gaining several places as a result, such as Carlos Sainz, he gained 2 places and had a penalty, and Perez had a 5-place grid drop but only lost 1 place, and it sort of makes a complete mockery of the system. So yeah, they need to get their ideas booked up with that. But without further ado, let's kick off with the actual race. And the pole sitter and race winner this weekend, of course, was Lewis Hamilton. Broke the record now for most pole positions ever in Formula 1 by one driver. So great to see, and you know, I suppose it's all fair and good, really. I mean, I'm not too fussed about it, to be honest. I see it as is the best of this era, like the 2010 era for definite. You can't deny that. But in terms of overall, you know, he's got 20 races to go at where he can get pole positions, whereas Schumacher, Senna only had like 10 and 12 races in the season. So I don't really think stats matter. I think they should do them through the decades rather than overall. But still, nonetheless, he has broken a record, and that's great to see. And yeah, dominated the race in the usual Hamilton style. Obviously benefited from the terrible qualifying that the Ferraris had, so didn't have any pressure and just pulled away. Bottas got behind him eventually in P2 and obviously just maintained the gap. So fairly easy weekend for Hamilton and a fairly straightforward one. So yeah, Lewis Hamilton. We got #bless last time. He's not going to get that this time, I'm not that cruel. But he's going to score 10 points. Can't really fault him. Qualified pole, won the race, 10 points. Job's a good one. Next up, Valtteri Bottas. Qualified in... Where did he qualify? I think it was about P5, P6, and then you had the penalties with the Red Bulls and stuff, so it started 4th behind Stroll and Massa. Stroll and Ocon. Yeah, and finished P2, so good race. Obviously not really that difficult to overtake at Williams and a Force India in my opinion, but still a solid 1-2 for Mercedes and firmly put themselves back on top of the pecking order. Ferrari just weren't there this weekend, were they, unfortunately? So yeah, not a bad weekend for Valtteri Bottas, but obviously in the shadow of Lewis Hamilton once again. So Valtteri Bottas can score 8 points. Next up was Sebastian Vettel. After qualifying a dismal 8th, he was promoted to 6th with the demise of the Red Bulls. And yeah, made a good move on the likes of Stroll, Ocon, whoever else, I can't remember. The qualifying didn't really matter in the end, did it? Because everyone just ended up in different places. So, but yeah, so I managed to finish P3 in the end. Quite an easy P3 as well, but nowhere near a match for the Mercedes drivers. But yeah, a solid weekend. Of course, he's now lost the championship lead to Lewis Hamilton by 3 points, but damage limitation, really. It could have been a lot worse after that poor qualifying. So, not a bad weekend for Vettel, but obviously not great. He's lost the championship now. That's not what the Tifosi wanted to see. But nonetheless, not a bad drive from Vettel, but I'm going to give him 8 points as well. Not bad, but not brilliant. You know, a good recovery, but Singapore next, and Mercedes don't tend to go well there, so maybe he can snatch the lead back in the championship. We'll wait and see. But obviously now Ferrari quite a long way behind in the constructors against Mercedes, so that's pretty much done now. I reckon it's Mercedes constructors to lose. Next up was Daniel Ricciardo. What a race. He ended up starting P16, I believe. Christ knows. Down there anyway after he qualified in P2. P3, wherever he was supposed to qualify, but ended up at the back of the grid anyway. But it weren't quite last at back at grid because others had more grid penalties, and then Grosjean ended up right last because he crashed in qualifying. Who gives a shit anyway? He was at the back, and he has stormed through to take P4, and the most impressive manoeuvre was that late charge on Kimi Raikkonen to get past. Was catching Vettel as well, but couldn't quite do it in the end. But it begs the question, where could Red Bull have been if they'd have qualified P2 and 3 and not had the penalties? Because the pace was there this weekend for them, so I think it was a bit silly for them to take their engine penalties this weekend. Clearly they thought the Renault engine wasn't going to be as powerful down here, but seemed like the car worked well, and yeah, I think they could have quite easily have been a potential double podium and race winners this weekend had they qualified P2 and 3. You know, they could have got Hamilton off the line, fended off from Vettel, but not to worry, it's not the case at all this weekend, so there you go. So P4 for Ricciardo, an amazing performance from 16th or wherever to P4. Solid race weekend, and he's going to get 12 points on the cruel wall. 12 points, because I think that was an above average race for him. An amazing qualifying, not his fault he started at the back, and then to recover to take 12 points for the team and get a brilliant P4 finish ahead of a Ferrari. Amazing stuff. Next up was Kimi Raikkonen, again in the shadows of his teammate. He made a mistake and cut the first chicane on one lap, I think, and just not there this weekend, Raikkonen. You know, out-qualified his teammate, admittedly, yes, and started 5th, but to start 5th and finish 5th when you got the likes of Stroll, Ocon ahead of you, you should have been able to easily get past them and be 3rd or 4th, no problem, but he let Ricciardo through, and yeah, bit of a shame really, bit of a shame. Not a brilliant weekend for Kimi, especially in front of the home Ferrari crowd, but you know, I suppose it's damage limitation for him as well, but he just didn't make the best of it, unfortunately. He's well out of the championship hunt now, and he's just trying to score points for Ferrari to maintain P2 in the Constructors. But yeah, Kimi Raikkonen, I scored him 6 points last time. Do I want to score him 6 again? I think I'm going to have to score him 5. And I do apologise to F1, who comments a lot on this video. I'm going to give you a quick shout out now, mate. I'm sorry. It is the cruel wall, you know, and I appreciate you watching this, but Kimi's just not delivering at the moment. Next up was Esteban Ocon, P6, qualified P4, qualified P5, ended up P3 after the penalties, I'll remember that. A solid drive, and when there's no Force Indias around him to make contact with, he has a good drive, so yeah, a good race from Ocon, but of course, after his antics at Spa with his teammate, he's still disqualified, and he remains the same, so still disqualified for Esteban Ocon. No points, I'm afraid. Great drive, but you know, you've blown your chances now on the cruel wall. Tough shit. Next up is Lance Stroll. Good drive, qualified P4 on merit, ended up P2 on the starting grid, and yeah, amazing to see him on the front row for the first time in Formula 1. Youngest ever front row starter, so good effort by Lance. And yeah, qualified P2 and finished the race in P7. We knew that Williams isn't really that quick, so he managed to bag 6 points for the team, finishing P7. So good result for him. Was obviously beaten off the line by Ocon, and then everyone else was just the faster cars that got through. So a good drive, apart from the lock-up that he made, trying to overtake a Sauber whilst lapping him. It's the only mistake I could see that he made. Maybe a bit overcautious on the start, but that's just inexperience, and he wanted to score points for the team, so fair enough. So a good strong race by Lance Stroll, and you're going to get, I'm going to give you 7 points. Good solid race there. Next up was Felipe Massa, finished P8, the other Williams, so good to see a double point score for Williams for the first time in Christ knows how long. It's been a while since they've actually scored points, but yeah, good race by Massa. Can't remember where he qualified. He was out-qualified by his teammate. So that was good to see that Stroll had the upper hand there. And yeah, Felipe, baby, did a good race. Tried putting a move on Stroll on the final lap, didn't make it though. Stroll did well at defending there. So Felipe Massa, I'm going to score you 7 points as well. I think you both did an equally as good a job for the team as you could have done. 7 points might be a bit harsh, but you know, I'm going to take into consideration the fact that there could have been a bit more team gamey at the end, you know, because Perez was coming and they could have worked together to get Ocon, I believe, but that's just my opinion. Next up was Sergio Perez, and yeah, finished P9 after qualifying P10, so didn't really make that much headway. Outshone by his teammate all weekend. Doesn't matter anyway what I talk about him, because he's still disqualified as well, so line through him, no points, disqualified, don't give a shit. Next up is Max Verstappen, P10, looked like he'd be the charging Red Bull, and it was for the first half until he made slight contact with Van Dorn, was it? I can't remember it actually, but made slight contact, got a front right puncture, had to do an entire lap on a punctured wheel, and ended up coming out stone dead last and recovered to P10 towards the latter stages. Had his little moment with Magnussen at the end, but Magnussen was just crying like a little bitch. No fault to blame by Verstappen there. Great to come through and actually score a point, but a disappointing weekend because he could have been up there with Ricciardo as well. Red Bull had the pace today. So apart from that, am I going to call it a mistake? I think I'm going to be a bit harsh with it and say, yeah, he created his own bad luck this weekend. He has had a lot of luck with reliability, of course, we know that. But this weekend, I think he just maybe pushed a bit too hard in the early stages, and that's what caused the contact, and that's what caused him to unfortunately have the puncture. So, Max Verstappen, I'm going to score you a solid 7 points for your racecraft and getting through the field again after your pit stop. But I think it was a bit silly what you did early on. Outside the points now, K-Mag whining like a little bitch once Verstappen got through. And to be fair, mate, Verstappen was already ahead and you just decided to drive on the grass to get some sympathy off at FIA. And it didn't happen, so tough shit. K-Mag finished the race, finished P11, no points for Haas. You were doing alright, I'd have given you some points, but you tried like a little bitch on the radio, so I'm just going to score you one point for K-Mag. Next up is Danny Kvyat, and once again he was driving. Was he in the points at any stage? I think he was measling around in 9th or something, but still relatively shite. Did outrace Sainz though, so that's a bit of a Brucey bonus for him, I suppose. But yeah, Danny Kvyat, I still don't like you. You still don't deserve to be in Formula 1. 2 points. 2 points for Danny Kvyat. He's still shit. Next up is Nico Hülkenberg. Well, Renault, what a shit race weekend for them. They were the 2 drivers that had the penalties as well to start at the back of the grid, so Christ knows where Hülkenberg started, probably about 15th or something, I don't know, but didn't really make that much headway, was pretty much lonely. You saw him overtake Alonso and that was about it really all race, I think, so yeah, Hülkenberg, a quiet race for him, no points for Renault this time around. It was always going to be a struggle after the grid penalty though, of course. But Hülkenberg, I'm going to score you 4 points. I think you could have had chance for points this weekend, but who cares? I'm not bothered. Unfortunate. Next up was Carlos Sainz, outraced by Kvyat, and Carlos Sainz was another driver to have all the penalties and stuff, so started towards the back. Drove alright, didn't really see much of him. I scored Danny Kvyat too, so Carlos Sainz can have 4. 4 points for Carlos Sainz, didn't see much of him, a quiet race and no points for Toro Rosso. Next up was Romain Grosjean, and once again, crying like a little bitch. The Haas drivers are becoming a pain in the Haas now, so stop whinging down the radio. I hate it, you know I hate it. I've done this before with drivers. But yeah, Grosjean was moaning quite a lot, but what can you do, I suppose. He moaned in qualifying about it, weather being too treacherous and that's why he crashed. Well, you just don't go out, pal, do you? You know what I mean? Anyway, Romain Grosjean, a poor race, poor showing. I'm going to score you 0. You're getting nil points on the board, Mr. Grosjean, because I hate it when drivers whinge. Next up was Pascal Wehrlein. He qualified stone dead last, I think, but ended up finishing or starting P11 or P12, Christ knows. That's what I mean about the upside down grid. I just can't remember what happened. But yeah, and it ended up, he was out racing his teammate, but then his teammate retired and he got overtaken and was last, and he got lapped twice. Yeah, he got lapped twice. So not a great race by Sauber, firmly back markers. Didn't see anything of him in the race, 4 points. That's all I can give him, I don't know what else he did. Then we come to the first couple of retirements but are classified. So it was Alonso in 17th, 3 laps down. McLaren Honda retired the car towards the end of the race. Alonso was whinging on the radio all the time and it was just funny. He was asking where Palmer was after Palmer got pushed off the track or whatever it was, but Palmer ended up with a 5-second time penalty, and then he was saying, where's Palmer, and they're like, he's retired. And he's like, okay, I'm okay now. So fair enough, a nice bit of banter by Alonso on the radio. We know he whinges, but I think he's probably the only driver on the grid that has a right to moan, let's be honest. You know, a 2-time world champion driving around in a car that keeps breaking down. I'd be a bit pissy as well, but then again, the amount of money he's on, I'd have been enjoying life. But there you go. So Fernando Alonso, a quiet race by him, but just for the sheer bants on the radio, I'm going to give you 6 points, Fernando. Good effort. Marcus Ericsson finished 4 laps down, but of course did box and retire. Again, a quiet race from Ericsson and the other Sauber, of course. Did out-qualify his teammate, but I don't know if that's with penalties, or I just don't know anymore. But yeah, nonetheless, he was out-raced by his teammate and then retired. So I'm going to give you 3 points, Ericsson. I think that's the only way I can do it. I didn't really see much of you in the race, and I've only got your teammate to compare you by. Stoffel Van Dorn was a retirement, of course. Yeah, again, a shitty Honda engine in the back of that thing. No faults with Van Dorn. He did qualify P8 and looked like he was going to start probably about P6, weren't it, or something daft? But then he ended up with penalties overnight, so he ended up dropping 25 grid drops or whatever, and it's just like, for fuck's sake, Honda, get your act together. You could have had a car up there for like first 4 laps at least, but instead no, they were measling around at the back and breaking down again. And it proves that the parts haven't worked because you've broken down. You've had a double retirement after having like 35 and 25 place grid penalties for both cars, so get your act together for Christ's sake. So, Stoffel Van Dorn, a quiet race by him, but not really his fault. And same as Alonso, I'm just going to give you a middle of the road 5 because I genuinely just couldn't judge you that race. You qualified well in qualifying, but the car just let you down. And you know, you sign for next year, which is just a fucking nightmare, isn't it? Let's be honest, Van Dorn, you'll be regretting that decision. And last but not least, the first of the retirements, Jolyon Palmer, hooray! We get him to him right at the end. Missed out, he didn't get through in Q1 anyway, qualified 16th. Started 17th, I believe, because of the penalties and shit like that, but he couldn't even get through it out of Q1 anyway on merit, so tough shit by him. And then was measling around shitely at the back of the grid and then was told to retire, and he's like, oh no, you've let me down again, guys. And he's just like, stop blaming the fucking team, they just probably parked the car up because you're shit. So anyway, Jolyon Palmer, he doesn't get points, he just gets word. And I'm just going to write turd. There you are. Jolyon Palmer, you are a turd. Get off the grid, my friend. And that rounds up the cruel wall from the Italian Grand Prix. So I hope you did enjoy this video, and thanks a lot for the support as always with this series. And I look forward to seeing you again soon for Singapore, I believe. It is, yes, Singapore, so I'll see you then. Thanks for watching, guys, and much love. Ta-ra.